Welcome to the Cretaceous period. Welcome to I Hope You Suffer.
I was not expecting that. I thought you were going to say
Oh
a
my
man of the
God.
claw.
Welcome to episode 73 of I Hope You Suffer. My name is Nathan.
I'm Kit.
I'm Katie.
And this week we are talking about 2018's VelociPastor, which was suggested by our guest, Christal VanEtten.
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 Close.
I got at least part of it right.
Yeah.
From the Superghoul. Hi, Christal.
Hi, how's it going, guys?
Hello.
Good. I know Christal had seen this before. I've seen this before. Kit watched it before. I think this was Katie's first time watching it.
It was.
Exciting.
After a long anticipation.
So what were your first, your kind of preliminary thoughts, Katie?
I loved this movie. I thought it was so great. Again, it's just like hitting all the things for me. This movie, first of all, I can usually tell with these kind of movies, like in the first like couple minutes, if I'm gonna like it or not. And the first thing pretty much that happens in the opening, I was like, all right, I am on board. This is great. And it's just it's basically like Daredevil, but with dinosaurs. So like, it's a masterpiece.
So I had tweeted something like either beginning of the year or end of last year where I was like, oh, here's like some guests I want on, and I tagged Christal in it, and she was just like, if you guys do VelociPastor, like, I'm in. So
I've been raving about this movie for the last year. I saw it at Texas Frightmare last year, and I was all in.
it's pretty great. I had like obviously like it was like as soon as the trailer dropped for it, I was like, I watched that and I was like, this movie is gonna be perfect. But being in Ohio, especially in Dayton, where like nothing of this kind of caliber actually comes through to a theater, I had to wait till it hit. I think I watched it on Hoopla actually, but it's pretty perfect. It's like it. I want to compare it to like Robo Vampire, but like knowingly making something crazy. Kit, what's your thoughts on it?
Oh, ruled. It's some of the like build-up can be a little hit or miss, but it is all 100% worth it for the climactic battle at the end, which is one of the best things I've ever seen, I think.
I mean, it's literally like you're watching Daredevil, but there's a velociraptor in it, right? Like, that's pretty much what happens.
I'm going to say yes.
Just make it blind. Just go for the full effect. All right, so I know, Christal, you love it. What, I guess just like initial thoughts before we actually dive into like the movie.
Well, I'm right there with Katie. That opening scene was what hooked me, and I'm similar in that regard where if I'm watching something like this that just sounds right off the bat ridiculous, I'm very much so like I will have a feeling if it's going to be something I'm obsessed with, like within the first 5 minutes. Definitely got me there. I wasn't ready for any of it.
Yeah, there's definitely like yeah, that opening scene is pretty hilarious. And then like as it goes through, we're just more ridiculous things happen. I'm just like more and more on board with everything happening, especially as it leads up to like the climax where you actually see the full dinosaur. Pretty great.
I gotta say, one of the other things that this movie, like, I think does really well at is that, yeah, there's like, as we'll get into, very ridiculous things that happen, very ridiculous effects, but the acting is like pretty good. Like, I thought both of the lead characters are like, I mean, they could be in just like any regular movie compared to like some of the other ones we've seen who that have been like a little bit high production value that are just like super super terrible. So like the fact that they're pretty good and like believable, and then all this other like crazy stuff is happening, was just like another thing that made this movie really great for me.
I think they do a good job of doing the overacting, where they're playing overacting actors who don't know they're overacting, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, it's I love it. So this movie was directed and written by Brendan Steer, starring Alyssa Kampinski. God, I'm so bad with names.
I am too. I think it's Kempinski.
She plays Carol, and then Greg Cohan as Doug Jones. And then I wrote down specifically for their credit, Zachary Steer as a dinosaur suit performer. It's a perfect credit to have.
You guys know the story about that?
About
Like behind them with the suit?
No, I do not.
So they actually originally hired somebody off of Craigslist to be in the suit. That went as well as you could expect it. So the guy did not last more than 7 hours when he was supposed to be there for 2 days.
I can see. I'm sure. Well, I guarantee it was probably extremely hot in that suit too. I just saw the credits and I just assumed in general that it was just like family members just doing it from the get go.
Yeah.
All right. So this movie opens with rated X by an all Christian jury.
Off to a good start.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're introduced to Doug, the main character, who is giving a sermon, and goes outside and sees his parents next to a car. And then, Katie, I'm going to let you explain what happens because you sent me a snap of it, like losing your mind earlier.
Okay, so he walks outside and immediately it's like super bright and there's like this cheery happy music playing and he's like, oh, my parents, and he's like waving, and then his parents are like, oh, Dougie, and they're like waving, and then they're standing next to their car and the car explodes. Doug is like, no, and it pans back over, and instead of showing like a car on fire, you just get this text across the screen that says VFX, car on fire. And it like flashes back between Doug going no and then like back over to this like graphic, and immediately I was like, I am dead. This is amazing. They got me already.
The fact that it's like goes back to it a couple times is my favorite joke in the whole movie. Like, instead of just doing it once, they cut back to it a couple times with just car on fire written on the screen. I can't fucking deal with it. You got to Doug being consoled by Father Stewart, and what was that?
Father Stewart is just kind of gross.
Father Stewart like is consoling Doug and telling him that he should go like travel and it would do him some good. And you get like opening credits of Doug driving with like super obvious green screen behind him, which is also great when it's like it looks like there's like scenes of him just looking backwards as he's driving and stuff where the screen's not moving.
There's also like some rock music playing, and again we have another song about like, well, the song, he says a line about like turning into a dinosaur, which like gave me like Tammy and the T-Rex vibes, where it like opened with like a rock song about dinosaurs. So
the soundtrack to this movie is pretty well done, I think. Like, they did a good job of picking songs that, especially like the I guess quote unquote sex scene later, that like the montage scored to Math the Band is pretty good.
Yeah, I thought the soundtrack was really cool, and then whatever the song was that they played that was kind of like the theme song had like a really cool like 80s like vibe to it. And I really liked that song.
Yeah, I like it's. I'm pretty stoked about all of it. So Doug arrives in China, aka the woods, which it didn't dawn on me until I watched it this time that Doug drove to China.
China is east.
Low-key, one of my favorite jokes is it says China on the screen, and he just stands there, like, taking in the sights for a moment and goes, China. And I have no idea why that cracked me up, but it did.
Yeah, me too.
It was like the most simplistic way to set the scene.
Yeah, it's great. And it, like, the stuff that pops up on the screen pays off so well once you get to the end, too.
Yeah.
So yeah, Doug is in these woods that are in China, and all of a sudden, a woman who is credited as Chinese villager, who is also the third credited person in this movie on IMDb.
Good for her.
Yeah, somehow over like Father Stewart. Is like running through the woods and gets shot by an arrow by a ninja, who like stumbles over in front of Doug, who with this arrow just jammed in her chest is like, "Are you hurt?"
She's also wearing like a white outfit that is like completely drenched in blood, so there's like no way that she was gonna end up fine.
Oh, it's so good. She basically hands Doug this artifact that is like a velociraptor. Like claw, yeah. And says, destroy it or it will haunt you forever, or hunt you forever. Which Doug just like sits and thinks about for a second. It takes it, and she says something about like Dragon Warrior, which comes up a bunch. And it just cuts back to Doug waking up. But I guess Doug, he backs up after like a ninja sees him, and the claw like cuts into his hand, and he just like screams. One of the first times you get a long extended yelling.
Which I don't know why, but for me, that kind of stuff cracks me up. Like, the longer it goes on, I just lose it. I don't know.
Yeah, the laughs with the, like, the ninja people later is great. He wakes up, which, like, from a dream to Father Stewart, who is, like, bringing him food. And they kind of have, like, a quick back and forth about, like, China and this claw. And then Doug, like, leaves and is, like, walking down the street and kind of, like, stumbles across this homeless man who asks him for money before he, like, bumps past Carol, who is the other kind of main character in this movie, who gives the man some money and then keeps walking and comes across Frankie Mermaid.
Fuck yeah, Frankie Mermaid.
Which is...
The only thing I wrote for this entire back and forth that they have is wow.
It was a perfect name, and then when he takes his hat off and has that ridiculous comb over, it's just like makes it even better.
You guys know why his name is Frankie Mermaid, right?
Because he's swimming in bitches.
That's right.
I could be. I don't know if this is right, but I feel like when Brendan was talking about that scene at Texas Frightmare, he said that the actor actually improv'd that. He came up with that.
Wow.
That was genius.
I
What a
stand
brilliant mind.
It's a pretty fucking perfect line. Like, everything about this character is the worst, but also the best at the same time.
Yes.
What a great name. That name's just been rattling around in my head for 2 weeks.
So Carol comes up to Frankie Mermaid and is basically immediately slapped because he is her pimp. She is a sex worker. And just kind of like yells at her, tells her like where to go. Just essentially him yelling at her and then saying, you know why they call me Frankie Mermaid? Because I'm swimming in bitches.
That's right.
Then it cuts to Doug stumbling around the woods where he starts to transform for the first time. Carol is also in these woods, which seems like a terrible place to be, I guess, doing sex work.
Yeah. Yeah, like for real. Seems like the worst. Because she's immediately, like, held up.
This guy comes up behind her and like asks her for money, or doesn't ask, like is mugging her and demands money, and she's like, they don't let me have the money. And he's like, well, take me to who does. And she's like, he will kill, or he'll kill you. And he's like, well, that'll make 2 of us, before he is immediately attacked by Doug in dinosaur form.
He gets VelociPastored.
I like this scene because it's just, you don't really see anything, but it's all kind of like lit up from just the gun firing. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I think like when he's like before you see Carol, when he's like sort of kind of transforming, where like he's like sort of scaly and he's like like he's still like human, but he's like roaring and his eyes are all crazy. Like I thought that effect was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that too. I like pretty much all the effects in here are either legitimately good or so bad that it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
But Doug, like, after this attack, just like hard cut startles awake in bed, where he doesn't know where he's at, and Carol comes in and brings him tea, and you realize he's in Carol's house, where they have like a back and forth to where it's like they're miscommunicating, where Doug thinks that they had sex, and he's like freaking out about it. And she's trying to be like, no, dummy, you turned into a dinosaur and killed somebody.
My favorite thing is that like at first she's like, last night was amazing, and his response was, oh, I see.
I love it. I love it so much. This is a perfect movie.
Doesn't he ask, like, was it bad or something like that?
I think he asked something about like she says some line and he's like, oh, was it your first time too?
Right, and she's like, yes, my first time seeing someone turn into a dinosaur and kill someone. Yes, of course it was.
Doug tells her that dinosaurs never existed.
Right.
And she's just like, well, I can show you the body then. And like, he's just like, well, do you have something I can wear? Which hard cuts to Doug in a tight orange dress in the woods with Carol.
I really hope somebody cosplays this.
Oh, I guarantee somebody
That
has.
would be amazing.
I would love it. It's like a sweater dress. It's like incredibly short, and it's like a V-neck. And then he has these like white. It's just so funny because he's pretty ripped.
Yeah, he was rocking it pretty good.
Yeah.
I just wish he had this outfit on like the whole movie.
The whole time. Yeah.
Just turns into a dinosaur.
Especially as the dinosaur.
Yes.
Oh my god.
That
needs to be a cosplay.
I was gonna say that's the cosplay
Yes.
I want to see. So Carol like takes him into the woods and shows him the body, which he immediately freaks out, and he's like, "Why'd you just cover it in leaves?" And she's like, "What else was I supposed to do?" Like, and like yells at her a bunch, and like that's when it's like revealed to him that she is a sex worker, which he refers to as a hooker. She tells Doug that like this could be a good thing, and he could use this power to go after rapists and pedophiles that like come in to confess to him. He's pretty conflicted about it and goes running off, which is a pretty amazing visual in this like orange short dress
In the woods, yeah. I
and
loved it.
his run is so like ridiculous too. It's awesome. As he's running off, it like hard cuts to him like running, like he's running in the dress and like turns a corner, and it cuts to the street as him running in like his priest outfit, and he is late for confessions, gets reprimanded a little bit by Father Stewart, and as he goes into the confessions, this first person is Frankie Mermaid.
Dun, dun, dun.
Who is smoking in the booth. Frankie confesses to stealing candy from a baby, then threw the baby in the river so it couldn't snitch on him.
Never changed.
Oh
Frank's
my
Mermaid.
god.
He then confesses to pimping bitches. He does drugs, sells drugs, and murders people. And then he's just like, in fact, one of them last week was these people right in front of this church. And essentially confesses to killing Doug's parents, which Doug immediately freaks out about and smashes through the like confession booth with his raptor claw. And starts like strangling Frankie Mermaid and demanding to know who wanted them dead, and just rips out Frankie's throat. R.I.P. Frankie Mermaid.
I love when he doesn't go full raptor and it's just like his hand.
Yeah, just
Like
like
he
the claw.
sold just his hand.
His little like puppet hand. Well, my favorite thing about this scene is that like I don't know if Frankie Mermaid, he might be my favorite character, to be honest, even though he's like terrible, because his lines are just so funny. He's like, yeah, in fact, I like blew up this couple's car. It was in front of this church, and there was this guy that yelled like, no, my parents, like they were his son or something like that. And then when he grabs him, he's like, might as well kill me now. And then Doug goes, okay, and just like slashes his throat open, and it was just like so just like nonchalant, and I was like, that just really got the lines in this movie are just like insane.
That was such a bittersweet moment, because then you're like, oh fuck, Frankie Mermaid's not going to be in the rest of the movie.
Yeah, true.
Like the first time I watched it, I think I thought they were setting up Frankie Mermaid to be like the main villain of the movie. So that like when that happened, I was like, oh, well now I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, again, kind of like Tammy and the T-Rex, where like the main guy like dies really fast.
Oh yeah, like the bully or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, the scientist lives to the end, and then I was like, oh wait.
Yeah, I meant the one that
Yeah.
fed him to the lions.
I'm tired. So it cuts to Carol at home, and Doug comes running in, and they decide to go with this plan of taking out bad people, and they're going to come up with like some commandments, so they have rules to go by, and how they can like move forward with him just being a dinosaur that kills people.
As you do.
One of my favorite lines is Carol goes, I don't know much about God, and he's like, I don't know much about dinosaurs.
Well, that's why this like next part is so funny to me, because there's like, so basically they're like, yeah, we're gonna do this, and they pause for a second, and there's like this build up, and you're like, oh man, are they gonna kiss? But they high five instead, which is hilarious. Then there's just like this montage about like, I wrote montage, praying, sit-ups, killing, and studying dinosaurs / Jesus.
That's all you need.
But it's like, there's also they literally the first person, so it shows them like hanging out, they're like eating ice cream. The first person he decides to kill is literally somebody that litters. He like throws a can on the floor,
I mean,
and then they're just
deserve-
like, yeah, he's
I
got
was
to
like, I
die.
agree.
Maybe he's in Texas. Don't mess with
The
Texas.
real villain
That's
of this
true.
movie.
The litterer, yeah.
My note is montage of Doug and Carol bonding, Doug working out, Dino attacking people, ends with Doug putting arm around her on bench and she scoots in closer to him.
That
So
part was pretty
cute.
sweet. Yeah.
I think they play off each other like really well in this movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, there is a part too, like before the montage of Doug kind of telling Carol about his parents, that he murdered the man that killed them, and she asked how it felt, and he's like, said it was like, good, then tells her it was Frankie Mermaid, and that's when she like hugs him and thanks him and stuff, and then high five. After the montage, it cuts to a ninja village where Master Y-Chan is being briefed on why money stopped coming in, and he's just having like a back and forth about them selling drugs, which culminates in the longest laugh ever recorded.
And it's like not normal laughing either. Like, okay, well, Master, I just called him Master. So he's like laughing normally. Then his henchman is just like some white kid who is just like, and it just like all the laughing he does is like so ridiculous. Like he's never heard a normal person laugh ever. And it goes on for like 5 minutes.
It's some shit I feel like Nick Cage would do, but seriously. Like
Can picture that.
Nick Cage would just pick like one of these laughs and just stick with it for like an entire movie. So after like this quick scene in this village, which introduces Master Y-Chan, you cut to Father Stewart, who sees Doug and Carol hanging out. And then it's like Doug in his room reading a book called Crime 2. As Father Stewart
With, like,
comes,
a stack of dinosaur books.
yeah. Father Stewart comes in, and Doug covers this giant book with a much smaller Bible to make it look like he's reading the Bible, which is a perfect joke. And him and Father Stewart have some dialogue about Father Stewart being worried about him and Carol, and Doug's just like, I'm different, and Stewart says, yeah, there are plenty of men like that in the church. And like Father Stewart is kind of telling Doug that he needs to be exercised because like whatever's going on with him. And they argue for a bit, and they argue about Carol, and Stewart locks Doug in the room and says he's going to contact the diocese about what to do. Doug then has a flashback of him and his parents, who like are just laughing hysterically at like the breakfast table, and then there's a voiceover of them telling them that like they're proud of him and saying he's their only son. And then it cuts to them like in a car where Doug's dad is they're dropping him off and telling him that if he's ever lost in the woods to follow his heart, and then they're going to go for a drive and they will pick him up after Priest College.
Yeah, I wrote Priest College. Like,
That's such a good combination of words.
It is.
it is.
After this flashback, you see Carol like waiting outside for Doug, but Doug is not coming out because he's locked inside his room in the church. Stewart gets Doug and tells him the diocese will take too long, and takes him to like what I guess is an occult shop, and takes him to see Altair, who is going to do like a seance, or I guess exorcise Doug. Doug starts telling a story to Altair as Stewart watches over, and it cuts to a voiceover from Father Stewart and a flashback of his time in Vietnam, which might possibly be my favorite scene in the whole movie.
Oh, it's the highlight for sure.
Father Stewart is talking to one of the other soldiers with him in Vietnam, named Allie, about like starting a family, and is like showing him a picture of his girlfriend back home named Adeline.
My favorite part about this, first of all, too, is that like he's literally the same age as he is in the movie, except they put like a wig on him, except like his regular hair is sticking out from like underneath the wig. And then when he shows him a picture of Adeline, she's like also his age. They're older. I don't know how old they are, like late 60s. I can't judge people's age, but they're like definitely older than whoever would be fighting in the war or whatever. And when he shows Ali the picture, he's like, "Ooh, she's a babe."
This whole scene is so good. I like the fact that like they did nothing to like really de-age him is pretty funny. It just makes it look even crazier next to like Allie. I think it's Allie. Just like looking like a hot young like 19-year-old dude from like the 70s.
Yeah.
So they're having like a back and forth about like, you know, when I get home, like we're gonna marry her, and we're gonna have a kid, and Allie delivers a line. He's like, well, like when you have that kid, I want you to name him after me, and you tell him about like your friend back in the war that made it through the entire thing without even getting hurt at all, as he gets just immediately shot to the chest.
And then, like, he falls to the ground, and Father Stewart is, like, holding him. He's like, no, no. And, like, the whole time, Ali continues to smoke his cigarette, like, as he's dead.
And then cuts to Father Stewart, like, writing a letter to Allie's parents as Adeline shows up. Like, for
oh
reason.
Adeline!
And, like, she starts running towards him, and, like, right before she gets to him to, like, hug him, she just explodes.
Like, not just, like, explodes, but, like, the effect is she's running and then vanishes, and it's like someone threw a bucket of fake blood at him. It just...
So
it's
good.
The most amazing effect.
I
in the
was
history of
waiting for
cinema.
what was going to happen, because the longer they kept saying each other's names, it just set in even more like, oh, this is not going to go well. What the fuck is happening?
I was also, like, very confused as to, like, why she was there in the first place. So the whole thing was just very, like, disconcerting.
Oh my god, I'm crying. It's so good.
After she explodes, the other soldiers are like, I don't think she's gonna pull through. I think she's too far gone.
And then
But
Someone else, what was she doing in the woods? And the guy's like, maybe she wanted to start a family.
the entire time, like, Stewart is just standing there with, like, his arms out, like, it's just in the same, like, position, like he was getting ready to hug her, and just doused in blood.
Oh,
maybe she was gonna start a family. Oh man.
I love it. I don't think she's gonna make it. Oh god. God bless.
Can't breathe a little bit.
Oh, this movie is so good. You cut out of this flashback to Altair with Doug and Stewart at like a table doing like a seance or whatever they're doing. and Doug is not into it. And like they start asking him questions, and he's like, you see him start to kind of like, freak out's not the right word, but he starts kind of like
twitching and stuff.
And he's just like, I feel, it like cuts back between like him saying I feel a couple times and like Father Stewart's face and whatever. He's like, I feel hungry. And, like, he like, his hand transforms and he gets like the effect where he gets sort of scaly and like his eyes get like, have like the yellow in them and stuff. And he like rips out, or what you don't realize at first, like, because I think the first time I watched it, I thought he killed Father Stewart.
I definitely thought he killed him first too.
But then it turns out that he just ripped his eye out, which comes back again in the best way. And so, like, after he rips out Father Stewart's eye, he goes, like, running out, and you see him stumbling, like, through the woods again as, like, ninjas with an Australian accent approach him, where the was just like, crikey.
I love this scene. I don't know.
Did you want to explain it? It's so ridiculous.
It is.
Okay, so you've got these ninjas of, various backgrounds, including the Australian, and they're coming up with like codes for their mission. And as that's happening, one of the characters, the actual Asian ninja, goes into his own side story and is not paying attention to what the Australian ninja is saying whatsoever. Oh my god. I don't even remember what the backstory to him was, but it just like comes back to, and the Australian dude is like, you got that? Oh, you're always in. Got it.
Yeah, I don't actually know like what his story was either, but he's just like thinking about like, I guess his girlfriend or something, because you see this like picture of a girl like smiling, and I'm like, what is happening right now?
It's so crazy. Like, just this like random ninja that they just go into like his thoughts as he's just like staring off in the distance while they're trying to like tell him these plans.
I like how they whipped out notepads too.
Oh, he's like, yeah, let me write it down.
It's like every scene they were just like, all right, what would like the logical thing be in this scene? And they're like, let's do the exact opposite of that. So like after this, the ninjas go to attack Doug, who kills all of them. And then it cuts to Carol arriving at home, where Doug is on the floor covered in newspapers. Just inexplicably.
Right? Like, why?
He tells her about, like, attacking Father Stewart and, like, the ninjas attacking him. And Doug immediately starts yelling about not wanting to hurt people. And Carol, like, tells him there's no monsters here and, like, touches his chest and stuff, and then just like, kiss me, and they start kissing, and then this is like the sex montage we talked about earlier.
Yeah, I wrote they have music video sex.
It's so long. Like, I think they played probably the entire Math the Band song, and like it's like at one point during it, I think they just fast cut the entire movie that is played so far into it.
Yeah, I literally wrote, have music video sex scene, comma, replay all of movie up till now.
There's a moment.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'll say there's a moment like in the middle where they've already like been together like skin on skin for like 2 minutes, and it's just two separate cameras of their hands like reaching for one another from like across the room, and it just lingers on it for like 30 seconds. Incredible.
Yeah, it's like that. What's the name of that painting? Adam and God.
Oh, the creation of life or whatever.
Yeah. That's what I thought it was supposed to be, but it was still pretty funny. And there's like weird lighting in it too.
Yeah,
like one of them's red, one of them's green.
I was gonna
and
say like they do this stuff throughout the movie a couple times where they like light the whole thing in like colors, but like this one specifically, it's like they're in the same room but like lit completely differently. So the next morning, Doug and Carol are cuddling in bed as ninjas just jump through their window, which they just expertly fight off. Like, no problem, and then...
In broad daylight.
Right, yeah. They just, like, fight them off in, like, his tidy whities, and, like, she's just in, like, a bra and panties, and then just, like... like, you just, like, immediately, you're just like, oh, Carol is apparently a ninja. Like...
Yeah,
I just love, like, there's no explanation as to why she could fight, and especially once it gets to, like, the climax, where she's just, like... taking on
fucking
like
batty about it.
Yeah, like 7 ninjas at once. One of them, like Doug, like kind of interrogates and it's just like says something to him, and he just tells him to like remember his faith before dying, and like has Father Stewart's, I guess, or maybe Doug's old necklace from like his priesthood in his hand. I'm guessing it's supposed to be Father Stewart's though.
Oh, that makes sense. I didn't know what it was from. I was just like, all right.
You then got to Father Stewart waking up with Master Wai Chan like watching over him. Father Stewart has an eye patch over his glasses. It's such a good visual. Wai Chan tells him that they're at the Saint Artemis Academy, and shows him that basically their plan is that the church is selling and distributing cocaine, and then plans to pull all of it out to cut people off so they'll be forced to seek help from the church, and then they'll find God. Which is an insane plan.
Flawless. Honestly.
My favorite part of this is that the like white ninja guy is just like, basically what we're doing here is manifest destiny.
Yeah. Oh, it's so dumb. Stewart argues with him that like this is like inhuman and this isn't the way that the church wants people to like come to God, and Wai Chan just stabs him, and as like Father Stewart is dying, he's just like, oh, Doug will stop you, and then I believe the ninjas laugh again.
I think probably
they more than likely did, yeah.
They never stopped.
And then it cuts to like Doug and Carol with a voiceover that just like Doug staring off in the voiceover of just, good thing that ninja told us where the hideout was before he died. It's just Doug and Carol like head off to find this village, and as they get to it, they are confronted by ninjas, where Wai Chan's second in command, the guy that laughs crazy throughout the entire movie, reveals himself to be Doug's brother, which cuts back to the flashback of earlier of Doug and his parents like laughing at the breakfast table, where the brother's just like standing in like the kitchen doorway, just like bummed out, and then he's just like in the back seat of the car where they're just like
just hiding out.
Oh, it's so good.
After his dad's like, "You're my only son," and he gets out of the car, and then the brother just like pops up in the back seat, just furious.
I just don't. This part made me laugh so hard because Doug is like, that voice, it can't be, and he was like, that's right, I'm your brother. Like, he just completely forgot he had a brother. Like, what? And then my favorite part is like before he does like a the brother does like a, do you call it a Hail Mary, or he does like the cross signal?
Yeah,
but it has like karate sound, so he's like, and then he goes, "For God!" Like, what is happening?
It's just ringing in my ear now. Oh my god.
This is where the movie really escalates, you guys.
Yeah, this is like, so
Serious.
Doug and his brother fight as Carol fights the rest of the ninjas in the background. Which is just like, I feel like one of those jokes that's just like a perfect background joke that like you're paying attention to Doug and his brother, but like Carol, who really shouldn't be able to do any of this, is just in the background taking on like the rest of this clan. But right before Doug and his brother go to fight, his brother like throws down the sword and says he's not gonna like taint his sword with his brother's blood. They have like a standoff in the middle of their fight where Doug, I guess, uses the force to get the sword to come to him.
That's literally what I wrote.
And then like stabs his brother, where they both just get like sprayed all over with blood. Carol has like beat up a bunch of these ninjas, and
some of them she even just like took down with one smack, like.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden this like super tall guy gets called out that I think is I'm guessing is supposed to be sort of like a reference to like the like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, like being in like the Bruce Lee movie where he's just like this huge guy. And he comes out and like steps up to Carol and pulls out this sword, and like instead of fighting, he just slashes her across the chest, and she, what you think is, dies.
Yeah, I was like really confused by this part because like up until then she was like kicking ass, then all of a sudden she just like doesn't do anything, and I was like, all right,
it's so good.
I guess.
She just kind of stood there.
Yeah.
Like, all right, well.
She like gets slashed and like goes down, and Doug runs over to her and tells her that he loves her, and she tells him he's like better than the rest of them and is a good man with a good heart, and then quote unquote dies. And then all of the ninjas in the background the entire time are like moved by this and sad and like hug each other to console each other.
You know what, though? Again, like, I hate to keep calling back to Tammy and the T-Rex, but this is, like, the same thing where the cops, like, shoot Michael, and then, like...
sad about it?
Yeah, and then are, like, crying about it, and I'm like, you did this!
Doug then gets super pissed and transforms into his dinosaur form, where you see his full body for the first time. And it's glorious.
Like paper mache goodness.
Going from like how good the dinosaur and like Tammy the T-Rex looks to this, it was like, it's so good. Like he's got this weird like hunchback and like, it's like...
Yeah, it's like very apparent that it's like a person standing like full erect, and then like, I mean, I think we can all agree this does not look like a velociraptor. I mean, first of all,
right?
This looks like Jurassic Park. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh,
I absolutely adore that they left the like hole to get in the suit through the bottom, like the crotch, like just open.
Yeah.
Like don't even try and cover it up.
It's just like flapping.
It's great, and like he like is supposed to be like fighting all these ninjas, but like he can really barely do anything. Like it's not like he's got like any kind of arm reach, and he's just like hobbling around, just kind of like bumping into ninjas as they go flying off.
Like then he tries to do like a whack with his tail, and he falls over.
That was my favorite. I wrote tail attack. And then also they're playing a track of like dinosaur growls and shit in the background. It's just like it just is great. It's very good.
Yeah, you just get like a bunch of stuff of them fighting, and he's like biting off arms and all that kind of shit. And then all of a sudden he gets hit in the leg with an arrow, and the screen like glitches out as it's like his transformation back into being like regular human Doug.
Digi-Dino.
Yeah. Then Y-Chan comes walking over with him with like his bow and arrow and explains that like they discovered an anti-venom for like the Dragon Warrior back in China. And like as he's talking to him, he just like taps the arrow in his leg, which like causes Doug a bunch of pain.
And he's like, ha 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 ha.
Yeah, and then he's like, you have any last words, VelociPastor? And Doug says, only 6. I think my hand is immune. And like just pulls off Master Y Chan's head in the greatest visual effect I've ever seen.
Oh my god.
I can't begin to explain the look of this dummy head he pulls off, especially after he turns it around. Looks absolutely nothing like what the actor, and it just rules so much. It's got these like giant eyebrows on.
They also like close in on it for so long as he's just like screaming and like holding the head up.
Oh, it's
just
great.
insane.
And like as he's like holding this dummy head up and like screaming, and it freeze frames, and then the Gandhi quote, only through the elimination of violence will we finally be able to achieve world peace, goes like pops up on the screen.
Gandhi.
And then it just like it cuts out of the freeze frame, and Doug's just like, oh, Carol, and like hobbles off, and then it cuts to Doug in like a waiting room at a hospital, where a doctor comes walking in, and it's just like, like she's doing really good. I think she's gonna make a full recovery. And Doug's just like, oh, like, when can I see her? And he's like, I think, probably right now. So Doug goes like running into her room. Like she's like on like what I can only explain is like an urgent care table.
Yeah, it's not like ICU or anything, and it's an examination room.
Yeah. Like fully dressed with just like a paper gown like laid over her. And he's just like, oh, or like, are you fine? And she's like, I'm fine. And then he's like, she leans into him, and she's just like, I'm fine. And then it just,
I thought she was gonna say that she was pregnant,
So,
and
yeah.
I was gonna lose my mind.
that's what like
I definitely thought there was gonna be some kind of weird dino thing happening with her, but
I thought she was gonna say she was pregnant too, and then like it's like she just whispers, I'm fine, and then it just pops up in bright yellow letters on the screen, she's fine.
She's fine.
I was like, all right, I guess she's fine then. That's it.
We need to meme that.
No kidding.
She's fine.
And then it just has Carol and Doug, like, Doug says, like, the church won't stop them, and that, like, Y Chan's death, or won't stop them with, like, Y Chan's death, and, like, Doug and Carol are going to, like, fight everything. Like, the church is trying to continue to, like, I guess, do this Coke idea, I don't know. But that Doug and Carol are out there to stop it, thankfully, saving the world.
And for some reason, he has like a really high bounty on his head.
Yeah, $1 billion bounty.
Yeah, like, okay.
Doug and Carol, the heroes we deserve.
Yeah, I think she says something like, what are you gonna do next? And he's like, what I'm best at. And then they make out, and I was like, okay.
Oh, it's so good. I am now waiting for VelociPastor to be the sequel.
Oh my god. With Frankie Mermaid.
Yes. That's like, he should just come back as like in some new form as like the main villain. I would watch
As a merman.
Oh shit, yeah, he would have to be like part mermaid.
That would rule.
That is a really weird visual, guys.
It'd be great. Just like
With his like balding head,
I was gonna
with a few strands across.
I was gonna say he's got like one regular leg and then like one fin. Oh, it'd be so good. So yeah, that's VelociPastor, which is an absolutely perfect movie.
Oh,
Yes.
Goodness.
So Christal, do you want to tell people about Superghoul and all that kind of stuff you have going on?
Yeah, sure. So the superghoul.com is a media and content site that I started back in late 2017 with a real launch in early 2018. So do some horror news reporting there, but I also do like photography, post some photo shoots there. There's a popular one that went viral of the summertime slashers, which is Michael and Jason having a bromance moment over some milkshakes. Uh,
It's very, very good.
but yeah, I'm starting to get more contributors for the site, which is awesome, and I'm looking to grow it in the next couple of years to infinity and beyond.
Yeah, everybody should check it out. Is the Doug Jones video still up on YouTube?
Yes, it is. It is still
It's
up.
adorable.
Minus the hater comments, which was really weird.
Yeah, that's a weird. Yeah, well, I don't. So the horror community just has a problem with that, regardless. But
I'm like, how can you be upset on a video of Doug Jones? Which, by the way, I'm pretty sure Brendan named his character in VelociPastor after the Doug Jones.
I feel like he has to, especially because that actor kind of looks like Doug Jones a little bit. So
I think he did tweet a while back like a birthday message for Doug Jones and kind of mentioned the connection between the character and him. So,
yeah, go check out Superghoul. It's pretty awesome. And then, do you want to tell people where like they could follow you on all that other stuff?
yeah. Okay. So I'm on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube under the Superghoul. So that's the Superghoul, SUPERGHOUL, just to spell it out for you guys. And yeah, follow me, and I will cheerlead on the rest of you guys on social media.
Yeah, that's I'd say something that's like you're like, really good at is like the cheerleading aspect of just kind of being like, hey, what you're doing is awesome, continue it, and like all that kind of stuff.
I love watching everybody's adventures and their journey, so it's definitely a joy to follow along with everything.
Yeah. Katie, real quick, did you have like news at all?
Not unless you guys want to talk about this Saw business.
Oh,
I just watched the trailer.
I meant to watch it. I'm extremely intrigued just by like Samuel L. Jackson and Chris Rock, but I forgot to watch it earlier.
What did you think of the trailer, Christal?
I thought it's definitely something that I wouldn't expect of those two actors, but I'm really intrigued to see how it goes because now we've got this, a lot of comedians are kind of breaking out of their boxes, but with the genre of comedy and going into horror. Like we got Aubrey Plaza,
Yeah.
Yeah. In the new Child's Play movie. But yeah, I'm really interested to see how this goes.
I think it's, from what I understood, it's kind of like, so it's going to be called Spiral from the Book of Saw. And so I guess the two main characters are detectives who are like, am I understanding that it's like a copycat killer?
I honestly didn't pick up on that, so I'd probably have to rewatch the trailer again.
Okay. Well, I think it's kind of like similar killings to Jigsaw, but I think it's a copycat. Maybe I made that up. But I think they sort of like visited that before where like, I don't know. The Saw franchise is like very, very long. Obviously I used to be super into them. Like when they first came out, I saw up until like Saw 3D in the theater, which I think was like
the last one.
I don't know. There's like, is it the last one? No, it's
I thought
not.
There's like 5 of them or something.
There's 8 counting Jigsaw. 7 is the one that was in 3D, which was like the final chapter or whatever.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't realize. Okay, so yeah, so I'd seen that many. The first Saw is like one of my favorite movies, and then after that, like I liked the next couple of them, and then it just got sort of like, I don't know. But I don't know. The idea of like taking the Saw and like, changing it a little bit and having different sorts of actors in it to me sounds kind of cool. And so I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. could be cool.
And that's coming out in May, right?
I would be shocked. I'd watch it, but I'd be
It was a
shocked
2020 release.
I'd be shocked if they didn't do October, because that's when like all of the other Saw movies came out.
No, I think they said May.
Really? That's
I think it's
crazy.
like late May.
I mean, I'll see it regardless. I watched all of the rest of
it's
them.
May 15th.
So, that's right before my birthday. Happy birthday to me. I get to see it.
Go watch some people get killed.
I mean, like, I don't know. I'm sort of, I guess, a Saw apologist. Like, I enjoy all of them as much as they're, like, completely, like, diminishing returns with each one. But it's, like, one of those things where I watched all of them because I was like, well, I gotta see how this shit, like, ends up. And then I watched Jigsaw, which I did not like at all. But I'm extremely intrigued with, like, Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson being kind of like the main actors and Chris Rock like producing it, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody know who directed it?
I can pull that up for you right now.
Whoever directed like 3, 4, and 5, I think.
Oh, Darren Lynn Bousman.
Okay.
I think so.
I'll see it. I may not go see it in the theater, but I'll definitely watch it once it hits like home media and stuff.
Yeah, it's Darren Lynn.
Because like I like 2 and 3. I think are both pretty good, and then it's like that's when it's like I start falling off a bit. I think I just at that point was just like rented them just to see how the story continued and ended.
Yeah, I think I've sort of touched on this before. I think I've sort of like reached my capacity for just like weird like contraption killings. Like the first like handful, I was like, this is like pretty refreshing. It's kind of cool. But now I'm just sort of like, oh, her mouth got ripped open. I don't know if I like that. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. Like, I think it's pretty cool. I like when I don't know if we'll see. It could be really good. Could be like meh. Guess I don't know. I don't think I'll see it in the theater either. But
yeah, I mean, I'm at least like Crystal said. Like I'm fully on board with like comedians kind of reaching out of their box and doing horror stuff, especially with like what Jordan Peele's been doing and like
for sure.
Like Aubrey Plaza did, which is like it's not totally horror before Child's Play, but she did like Life After Beth.
I freaking love that movie so much. I think I've recommended it before. So if anyone's listening now and they haven't seen it, it was free on Prime. I don't know if it still is, but I love that movie. And Aubrey Plaza is like a god, so she, watch anything that she's in.
Agreed.
Agreed.
All right. Next, what are we doing next week, Katie? You picked a movie.
Yes, we are going to do a movie from 1999 called Mirror Mirror. It's been on my watch list for a while, so we'll see.
All right, yeah, I have no idea what that's about, so we'll see if it'll...
I'm gonna guess Mirrors.
I'm gonna see if it ends our streak of movies we liked for a while.
You know what? It might. I don't know. It has the potential. It looks pretty cool, but like we've been fooled by that kind of thing before, so we'll see. But it is directed by Marina Sargenti, who did an episode of Xena, and Xena is amazing, so I expect it to be very good.
I've actually seen that movie, so
Uh-oh.
I reserve all opinions until after I watch or listen to your guys' episode.
Okay.
I just like the criteria of being
How
like she
ominous.
directed an episode of Xena, so all right, so yeah, Mirror Mirror will be next week. You can rate and review us on iTunes and Apple Podcasts and leave us recipes if you want.
Please.
The only reviews I want anymore. Follow us on Twitter at I Hope You Suffer and Instagram at I Hope You Suffer Podcast. You can listen to Kit's other podcast, Riff Raff, over on the Toilet of Hell Radio. Follow Katie on Instagram at Werewolfface and buy her coffee at ko-fi.com/werewolfface.
You got it.
Didn't even write that down. Then Listen to my other podcast, Let Me Be Your Pot of Love, where my girlfriend and I talk about Flavor of Love and all that other garbage reality shows from like 2005. All right, Christal, thank you for coming on and getting us to make Katie watch VelociPastor.
Yes, it's my favorite thing to do. Everybody is going to see VelociPastor, okay?
They have to.
Should. And it's only
Totally
like, it's an
backed.
hour and 10 minutes. Like, it's like super short. It's absolutely worth watching.
100%.
Should we like sign off with our own obscure laugh?
Yes.
Just all do it at the same time.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right,
Ready?
I hope you suffer, but why?
That was pretty good.